There was one job where I spent 4 days working and only had 2 hours of sleep. This was by far my longest overtime in my life. At some point in your career, you're gonna encounter overtime at your job. However, before you do this, it's essential that we talk about the hidden costs associated with working overtime. This video will likely alter your perception of your workplace, but I'm gonna give you creative ways to manage and even avoid working overtime to better achieve a good work-life balance. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Matthew, and I have worked thousands of hours in overtime in my career in advertising across many advertising agencies. I've come to the final conclusion that it is 100% not worth it. So if you're curious about my final conclusion and opinion on this matter, there you have it. But if you'd like to dive deeper in the subject and where I'm coming from and learn some of the techniques that I have developed to manage and completely avoid working overtime, then let's jump into it. According to the US Department of Labor, overtime is any time that exceeds the 40-hour work week. I want to focus on performance overtime. Now, this kind of overtime has no extra pay. It's really just that extra time that you put in to meet a certain performance expectation or achieving a specific goal at your company. This means being paid on a salary based on results, not really caring if it takes you 40 or 100 hours to produce a specific result. This can become an issue when your employer has unrealistic timelines or expectations that cannot be fulfilled within the 40-hour work week. Your employer might hook you with a raise or a promotion at the end of the year, but often these things don't happen, and when they do, it's usually not paid fairly with the amount of work that you put in. Now, I used to be a lifeguard, and I really enjoyed time and a half overtime pay. I would take those extra hours all the time because I needed the extra cash. So what is the argument that we tell ourselves that working overtime is okay? Well, I always told myself that working my ass off will show my boss just how good I really am and how committed I am to the company. For the most part, this really paid off. I was given more responsibilities. I was put on bigger jobs, bigger budgets, bigger clients to handle. With that, I was given more overtime devoted to the job. Now for me, I actually enjoyed burning the midnight oil and churning out creative ideas for clients. This was all familiar to me because I did it all through college. Not sleeping, chugging Monster energy drinks, hustling my ass off to meet deadlines, and popping the occasional unprescribed Adderall to get done. And at the height of my achievements in my career, the biggest bonus that I've ever received was just over double my monthly salary, and it really made me happy. But what exactly are the dark costs of overtime? Well, we're gonna get into some serious matters right now. When we think about overtime, the first thing that comes to mind is the time that it takes away from our family and our loved ones, or our personal time, or that Netflix show that I'm binging. And in the moment when you're working that overtime, it doesn't feel like it's a huge cost. But over time, those late night hours translate into days, weeks, months, and into years. And eventually, you look back and you realize that all of that time was stolen. So the first dark cost is really time, because it is non-refundable and we'll never get it back, ever. At the peak of my overtime, the stress was driving me to smoke a lot of cigarettes, be jacked up on coffee and sugary sweets. Whatever would keep me going, I'll take it. Not to mention the overtime dinner food, which was either fast food or leftover fast food, anything that would make us feel comfortable with working those late hours. Now consider the following stats. 75 to 90% of doctor visits are stress related, as stress can play a part in headaches, migraines, heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, skin conditions, asthma, arthritis, and even depression. Some people have other problems like lack of a sexual drive, drastic changes in their weight loss, gut issues, forgetfulness, and even having a hard ability to pay attention. Are any of these symptoms familiar to you? Maybe it's stress related. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration had declared that stress is a hazard in the workplace. Stress costs the American industry more than $300 billion a year. But let's also consider the hospital bills that will accumulate from all the health issues related to the stress from your job. Will that big bonus cover the skyrocketing premiums on your insurance? Probably not. Probably the darkest cost to working overtime is the long exposure to stress that affects our mental and physical ability to remain happy. I remember one year, there was a young woman at my advertising agency, and she had been working 100-hour weeks, often getting only 2 hours of sleep a night. Over the period of many months, on Christmas Day, she decided to take her life. Unfortunately, the investigators declared that this was a death by overwork. She was only 24 years old. I want to pause here for a moment and just ask if you know anybody in a similar situation to please reach out to them, try and give them support. If it comes to it, contact your local helpline and talk to a professional to give you the best advice on how to proceed. All things considered, after going through all of the dark costs associated with overtime, from time stolen away from your personal time and your family time, to health-related issues due to stress, to the big threat to our mental health, now let's look at methods on how to manage and even avoid working overtime completely. Here is my checklist that I do every time that I am faced with overtime. Number 1 is really making up your mind and declaring what is most important to you. For me, I put my health first, my well-being first, because that is what matters most. If my health and well-being fails because I'm being overworked and I'm stressed, it's really game over for me. And I know my company will quickly replace me once I'm gone. Let's decide right now what's most important, you or your job. For most of us, the decision is obvious. Number 2 on the checklist is balancing my time priorities. This means balancing and putting in enough time for both work and personal or family time. If work starts to begin to eat into my family time, that's where I draw the line. I will do whatever it takes to move that meeting, move that call. If it's something that can wait for tomorrow, I will make it move. If someone argues that, hey, this can't wait until tomorrow, sorry, I don't have a solution to your problem. But what about crunch time? Sometimes there's a situation where there is a hard deadline and you have to meet it. Now, I fully understand this. I have never missed a hard deadline in my life. If I promise to complete a project or deliver work for a client, I will do it when I promised. For example, if I end up overtiming and spending all night to produce that work, that is fine. I make for damn sure the next day I will offset that time that I worked overnight and give that time back to myself or my family. That is important. So balancing your work and your family time and your personal time, you need to have that balance because you'll never get that time back. Number 3 is easy. It's observing. As a junior or someone starting out in their career at a new job, this really applies to you. You need to observe your boss just as much as they are observing your performance. Here's what I mean. You need to assess how good your boss is. A good boss will be clear in their direction and steer you towards success. A bad boss usually makes things more confusing, often leading to working late hours, overtime, and stress. It's crucial to be observant of your boss's leadership style. If you find yourself in a situation where you're working long hours, you're doing a lot of overtime, and you're stressed, that's a red flag that you might have a horrible boss. And it may be time to consider finding a new job. Remember, a bad boss is unlikely to change their ways, and it's not worth it to waste your life at their expense. The fourth and final thing on our checklist is making a contract with yourself. So usually when you start a new job, the first thing that they do is create a contract between you and the employer. And when this happens, this contract details your salary and how much time you're committed each week and each month to give to the company to bring business results. This is the contract that dictates how much time and energy you will commit to this company. So if you're going to promise this time and energy to this company, why not make a contract with ourselves and promise the time and energy necessary to meet those goals and ambitions that we have in our own mind? But wait, doesn't this mean working overtime for ourselves after work? Well, no, because that contract between you and your employer says that you'll be working 9 to 5, 40 hours a week, and if you go over that, that is considered overtime. The contract with yourself isn't going over any time limit. It's whatever you give yourself. You write your contract. Making a contract with yourself is probably the best thing you can do. It's a commitment to make your own schedule and do the things that you want to do to improve yourself, your goals, and your ambitions. It's that commitment to give time and energy to yourself, to the things that will make you better each day to achieve the goals that you want in life. So if you have the stamina to work on yourself after working hours and try the techniques to completely avoid working overtime, then you have a chance to one day be self-employed and possibly have your own business or your own personal brand and free yourself from that 9 to 5 job. So here are my final thoughts. The cost of working too much overtime is way too high. Your family and personal time, health, and well-being is not worth giving up to fill the pockets of other companies and clients. If they pay you fairly and your time and your health and your well-being is okay, working overtime is completely okay. Use your best judgment for your situation. Everyone's going to be a little bit different. Run this checklist if you ever find yourself in that situation of working overtime and see if it helps. Let me know in the comments below. I hope this video was useful to you and you have a better grasp on the gravity of the dark costs of working overtime. Now I understand this doesn't apply to every situation. There are people who are forced to work those long hours to keep that paycheck coming in, to keep a roof over their heads and food on the table. The looming recession right now and the economy is not a friendly place. I know this very personally because I was made redundant from my job a few months ago. But now I've made a contract with myself to promise the time and energy needed to achieve the goals that I want to achieve in my life. This also means making this YouTube channel and helping others who are watching my videos. To you I say, thank you, be safe out there, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.